Hey, what's up, you guys? Godly Perfection here, and I'm doing video 3. Actually, less than 5 minutes ago, just ended video 2 on debunking common sense. So, I'm still in that let's talk mode. Alright, let me quick recap over the last 2 videos, if you hadn't seen them. The intro covered there's a new forging contest over at Waypoint, blah, 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 hosted by community cartographers. I happen to be one of them. And we pick maps for matchmaking, give them a 3-4-3. And this whole series in general covers level design concepts with examples and references to help you improve in general in map design, specifically towards Halo, because that's where my crew is. Now, the last video that I just did covers common sense, and common sense is important, but classifying everything that we talk about as common sense can lead to you not taking the time to understand it at the depth that you should take the time to, because understanding why things the way they are can help you create new common sense and can help you make better decisions when you understand why people add sniper rifles and rocket launchers where they should go, or grenade launchers or grenades, I don't know, where they add cover, stuff like that. So understanding the essence of concepts rather than debunking it as common sense is, or just putting it aside as common sense, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore, is kind of flawed. So look at each of these videos, watch each of these videos, don't skip, because skipping can lead to maybe missing something that may help out later in your design focus, or I might cover something that I will refer back to in a later video that you may watch. So hopefully you'll watch everything and you'll add discussion for everything. But let's move on. That's just the last 2 videos. I covered that enough. So today this video, I'm gonna talk about incentives. Incentives are one of the most important things, and I'm mainly covering it because objectives. Our contest is objective based, and objectives are very important incentives. So what are incentives in essence? Incentive, according to dictionary.com, says something that incites or tends to incite to action or greater effort. Then it goes into like as a reward, but whatever. So basically an incentive pulls attention. It creates people, makes people want to do stuff, want to go towards them and be like, hey, let's do stuff. Incentives are very important because they, let me go here. Actually, I added my own definition of incentive. Incentive, in our terms, is something that helps a player achieve one of their goals. And I cover goals in general because sometimes their goal is different than what you would expect. For example, for objective games, when somebody's playing the team objective playlist, they're not always going for the objective. Sometimes they're just going to increase their KD ratio. So their goal at that time is to increase their kill to death ratio, and they have different incentives than somebody actually playing the objective. So that's why I cover goals in general. It's not always just to win the game. Why is it important? Because incentives make people move. You have control over how people act by offering them incentives to make them do what you want them to do, or encourage them to do things. Incentives make people do stuff, and they're going to be reacting to incentives throughout the whole time, so why not take them into your own hands? If we look deeper, there are tons of different types of goals that people could have. They could be reaching towards. Like I said, winning the game could be one, which would include capturing the flag. If somebody sees the flag, they're more than likely going to go towards it, because if their goal is to win the game, then they're going to go after the flag, or protect it, either one. If their goal is to increase KD ratio, then they'll be following a completely different set of incentives. They could be collecting achievements. Say you have an achievement to splatter somebody with a mongoose like you did in Halo 3, then mongooses become quite the incentive for people. Staying alive can be an important incentive or goal. Incentives for that would relate to like cover. That would keep people alive. And then getting to a particular location to further, that locations would be incentives, things that speed up your transportation, like man cannons, teleporters, and stuff. So tons of different goals. They could be short term, they could be long term. But the point is, incentives help them get there. They're incentives because they help them reach their goal. Types of incentives, like I mentioned, flags. Other objectives like skulls and, I don't know, headhunter. Players can be incentives, and this can, because players are a source of points. They're a source of kills. So if you're increasing your KD ratio, if you're playing Slayer, players are incentives, which is hard to deal with because they move. They move everywhere. So players being incentives are hard to control. So understanding how to control your players is just as important as placing weapons. Weapons are incentives because they increase your kill capacity and your ability to achieve your goals. Pickups, active camo, overshield, whatever. Vehicles, teleporters. Vehicles can increase your kill count or your killing ability, and other reasons. I mean, they increase transportation speed, movement speed, cover, staying alive. Things like that. Height. I'll cover height in a much later video as well as cover. And tons of different things can be incentives. It really depends. Alright, moving on from there. Incentives can be active or inactive. And by that I mean, say we have a rocket launcher spawns particular spot. Let's, actually, going back to incentives, the incentives exist in other games. Gears of War happens to be one of them, from what I've heard. There's this article, I'll put it in the YouTube description. There's an article on multiplayer map theory in Gears of War, and one of the sections they cover is level flow and lures. Lures is their incentives, what they're calling incentives. I call incentives lures, whatever. It's interchangeable. But they cover, here, something we do have in common with levels from other shooters, though, is the concept of using lures to move the action around the map. 2 to 4 super weapons placed strategically in a map will definitely affect how the map plays. This can be used to aid long-term replayability of a map. A lure could also be a key cover structure, a powerful flank position, scripted objects that trigger events, and whatnot. So, I mean, lures exist in other games. Incentives exist everywhere. Like I said, it's just for a goal. And, I missed this little link here. I cover incentives in the past in my Forge lesson, so if you want to go back and read this for further knowledge, I suggest you do. I mean, it doesn't hurt to read other stuff. This is a little out of date, but that's fun. Let's talk incentives on Mario. Look at this. This is old school right here. So, Mario starts out. He's walking through, and he gets to this point. He's got 3 paths. He's got 1, 2, 3. This middle path, he's got coins. This bottom path, there's nothing there. This top path, he's got like 2 little question marks and some coins. Hey, so, I mean, in terms of obviousness, if I was able to get to these 2 question marks, as in if I'm a big Mario, then I would take the upper path. If not, then I would take this middle path right off the bat if I didn't know anything about the future. But if I take either of the top 2 paths, I end up missing out on all these coins. Incentives can move people, and because of that, you have full control. First time playthrough, you're going to miss all those coins. But then when you die later on and you respawn, you're going to be like, oh, I'm little Mario. So I can go through here, and I can not only grab all these coins, but grab the mushroom that's in here, and make me a big Mario. So, I mean, incentives can make people do crazy things. They can make people miss huge treasures, and that sort of control is important to understand. This picture was grabbed from Auntie Pixelante, I don't know. But it was a pretty good article. I highly suggest taking a look at it whenever you get the chance. It's well worth it to read other people's theories on how incentives work and how level design should be played, should be done. All right, let's move on. Where was I going? I'll skip back here. Active, inactive. All right, so incentives can be active or inactive, and by that I mean they can exist or not exist. We'll say let's pull up this other picture that I have. I grabbed this from halo.bungie.org. Well, the forum's over there. And this is a really, really old post, like 2010. Look at that. But here we've got a top-down picture of Powerhouse on Halo Reach. So let's say we've got rocket launcher spawns right here. See that? Both teams, you've got one team here, one team here. I don't remember which is which, but both of them have same distance to rockets. Once one team grabs rockets, then it's no longer there, and because of that, it's no longer an incentive. It'll spawn in, we'll say, 180 seconds maybe. But because of that, that no longer has pull. At the beginning of each match, people rush towards rockets or rush towards hammer on Powerhouse, or they'll go off and grab focus rifle, pro pipe. But the thing is, once those incentives are no longer there, they no longer have pull. Once hammer's gone, once rocket's gone, then you got to consider, where are my players going to go next? How are players going to move after that? And understanding all sorts of incentives, not just weapons, can help you move people. Because once hammer and rocket's gone, then players start to become incentives in Slayer. Flags become incentives, and an objective, or oddballs and bombs, whatever. So understanding when an incentive has pull and when it doesn't is important. Not only does it matter whether it's active or inactive, but different incentives have priorities. You can only go for one thing at a time most of the time. Well, sometimes you can kill 2 birds, 3 birds, 1 stone, but like you're going for height advantage while simultaneously picking up the rockets that somebody else dropped. But incentives have weighting. When people are trying to make a decision, they prioritize in their head. And they prioritize in different ways. There are different characteristics that can make an incentive more important than another. Effectiveness, when we're talking in terms of rocket launcher versus sniper rifle, spiker, whatever. People will judge its effectiveness based on their playstyle, the map, etc. And that'll flip-flop how people make their decisions on what incentive to go towards. For example, on a open map, sniper rifle would probably have more pull than a rocket launcher. On a close range map, rocket launcher now has more weighting than the sniper rifle. Unless you're really good at quick scoping, then I can see choosing sniper over rockets. Relevance. Relevance of an incentive, like I said, close quarters weapons for close quarters combat situations, sniper rifles for longer range combat, and then you've got other situations on whether or not, say, you need cover. If cover's there, but nobody's shooting at you, then it's not very relevant, is it? Not important. But if there's a chance that somebody might be coming around the corner, then it holds a little more weighting. Hey, I want to stick a little closer to that cover just in case somebody comes around the corner. And then time till active is important too. Say you've got a rocket launcher coming off a spawn soon, 30 seconds to spawn. That's when teams are getting more aware that, hey, rockets are about to be up. Let's cover that area. So time to spawn can be a factor. I mean, there are tons of factors, but these are the ones I could think of right here. So weighting's important. And then I talk about mental heat map. Actually, I've covered this in the past a little bit. Later on in the Forge lessons, I covered incentive weighting, and I talk a lot about it. And at the end, I talk about understanding, creating a heat map in your mind. And let's look at what a heat map actually is. I just found this online on Google somewhere. But if you look, the red areas, the darker areas, there where more action happens. The yellow areas, there's sort of frequent actions. Orange is even more. And then the lighter colors are where less action is. But in your mind, you want to create this heat map. If we go back to that Powerhouse top-down call-out picture, at the beginning of the match, you've got a lot of attention on rockets. a lot of attention on hammer, a little bit of attention on focus rifle, a little bit of attention on pro pipe. So these areas are heavily weighted, and people are going to be traveling towards there. Once rockets is gone and somebody has taken it away from that area, then rockets now has a lower focus. Then you got to look at how weighting changes throughout the map. Then you got to look at stuff like height advantage, office roof right here. This area, this becomes very popular. Other areas like good sight lines, there's so many different things that could change how people move. And thinking about it, understanding, hey, people have a higher chance of going here and versus going down here, that can help you move players. And just understanding is important right now, and we can look at that later and how it affects people's movement. But I wanted to introduce incentives and how important they are, and think about it. Think about how incentives are moving people around your maps. Think about how incentives are moving people in games and puzzles. There's tons of different ways to move players, and as a level designer, part of your job is to understand why people are moving the way they are. And if you find a problem with your map, like there's way too much chaos in a particular area, using incentives to pull people away from that area can help deflate it. And we'll talk about traffic later on. That's what we call traffic. Or combat congestion, whatever you want to call it. I cover that later. But think about incentives, think about the types, think about the goals. If you can think of any other types of incentives or other types of goals that I missed, throw it in. Characteristics that could increase weighting, post a comment. I want to hear from you guys. I want to create an active discussion on level design. I want you guys to get better, and I want to get better. The more we learn as a group, the better. I've taught many people many things, and I've had many people come back and teach me things that I didn't think about. It was common sense to them, not common sense to me. So, I mean, helps a lot to work as a community and to collaborate. Several minds are better than just one. So, I think that's all I have for now on incentives. Haven't quite picked out exactly what my next video is going to be. I might cover it on deterrence, since they're pretty much the opposite of incentives. So I will see you guys in the next video that I make. I've got to collect references and whatnot. In the descriptions of all these videos, you will find links to most of these resources. Stuff like this on Pixelon, level design for Mario, UDN, Gears of War, map theory. Totally read this. And then, like in the intro video, I shared the CSY Vertson archive. In the last video, I covered Theory of Fun. Highly suggest picking this up. It's only like 15 bucks. But yeah. So I will see you guys in the next video. Hope you guys are enjoying the series. Drop some feedback in YouTube. Subscribe. Share with friends. You know the deal. Catch you guys later.